everyone. I'm Tracy Halliday, Executive Director of O Museum in the Mansion and co-founder of 51 Steps to Freedom. It's an honor to welcome you all here today to this extraordinary home as we gather in faith, reflection, and gratitude to celebrate the life and enduring legacy of Mrs. Rosa Parks. This morning is especially meaningful to all of us. Not only are we paying tribute to one of the most courageous women in history, but we're also debuting the new Mrs. Rosa Parks O Museum activation on the 51 Steps to Freedom Trail, a project that was born right here and inspired by Mrs. Parks' time within these walls. For those who are new to O Museum, let me share a little bit about this remarkable place. O Museum was founded 45 years ago as a haven for innovation, compassion, and possibility. What began as one building with a few rooms has grown into a 100-room-plus labyrinth of imagination, filled with some of the most unique artifacts in the world, over 80 secret doors, and 112 different ceilings, each one designed to remind us to look up, stay curious, and remember that we are part of something greater than ourselves. Every corner of this place has a purpose. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and everything we do, every exhibit, every concert, and every event helps to support our mission: to inspire creativity, diversity, and imagination through the fusion of the arts, music, science, and sports. Over the years, the O Museum has welcomed millions of visitors from around the world: families, artists, dignitaries, students, freedom fighters, performers, and dreamers, all walking through these doors to rediscover wonder and connection. We've also helped other nonprofits and organizations raise over $100 million for their causes. And through our Artists and Heroes in Residence program, we provide more than 1,000 free nights of housing each year to people who dedicate their lives to uplifting others. This very home has been the setting for countless acts of kindness and transformation. It's where Luciano Pavarotti sang "O Holy Night" with Cordell, a homeless veteran and our very first hero in residence. And it's where Mrs. Rosa Parks lived for nearly 10 years, a period of rest and renewal after decades of service and sacrifice. Mrs. Parks taught us that real change begins with one heart at a time. She believed that love, expressed through education, action, and compassion, is the most powerful way to move humanity forward. This belief is woven into everything that we do here, and it's what inspired the creation of 51 Steps to Freedom. 51 Steps was born at the museum as a way to carry her message and our mission beyond these walls into every neighborhood in Washington, D.C. It's transforming the city into the largest outdoor museum in the world using art, music, storytelling, and cutting-edge technology to bring America's history to life in the palm of your hand, in the very places where it happened. And now, as we prepare for America's 250th anniversary, that mission is expanding throughout the nation. Signing the Promise, a national augmented reality activation created by 51 Steps to Freedom, will invite people from every state and territory to reconnect with the founding ideals that unite us all, and remind them that all roads lead back to the heart of our democracy here in Washington, D.C. But what truly makes these projects special, and what makes O Museum so unique, is the spirit that drives them. We are not just about history. We are about action. We are about possibility. And we are about purpose. This is a place where creativity meets compassion, where everyone is encouraged to talk to strangers, dream boldly, and rediscover the power of imagination. As we continue this morning in prayer and fellowship, surrounded by these new artifacts donated to honor Mrs. Parks by Jane Gunter, who was on the bus with her, may we each be reminded that we all have the power to open new doors in our communities, in our country, and within ourselves. Thank you so much for being a part of this with us today. Now I'd like to introduce O Museum in the Mansion's Chief of Staff and 51 Steps to Freedom storyteller, Deacon Sharon Malone.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. The verse of this little light of mine I sang is a powerful anthem that gave participants in the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s strength and dignity as they faced their oppressors. I will recite the 27th Psalm, which gave Mrs. Rosa Parks the strength to love her enemies. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even my enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though a host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me upon a rock. And now shall my head be lifted up above my enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me, and answer me. When thou saidest, seek ye my face, my heart said unto thee, thy face, Lord, will I seek. Hide not thy face far from me. Put not thy servant away in anger. Thou hast been my help. Leave me not, neither forsake me, O God of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. Teach me the way, O Lord, and lead me in a plain path because of my enemies. Deliver me not over unto the will of my enemies, for false witnesses are risen against me, and as such breathe out cruelty. I have fainted unless I believe to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage. He shall strengthen thy heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Dear God, creator of all, thank you for allowing us to gather this day to honor the mother of the freedom movement and the first lady of civil rights. This day we celebrate the passing of Mrs. Parks 20 years ago on October 24th, 2005. God, we praise you for setting us free from the shackles of bondage and allowing us to remember the contributions of Mother Parks, whose courageous act of resistance against racial segregation by refusing to give up her seat on a bus has made her an important person in history. We thank you, God, for having provided Deaconess Parks the strength she needed at the precise time when conditions were ripe for change. We are thankful to you, God, for you gave her strength not to move from the bus seat in Montgomery, Alabama. God, we ask your blessings on this prayer breakfast and the food that we have received for the strength and nourishment of our bodies, as we fellowship with one another and continue through this day. May the words of Mrs. Rosa Parks find fertile ground in our hearts. Love, not fear, must be our guide. And once we depart from this place, God, grant us your travel mercies to arrive at our destination safely. Amen, amen, and amen.
Good morning, everyone. It's a joy to share this morning with you. I'm H.H. Leonards. I founded O Museum in the Mansion, and I am the co-founder of 51 Steps to Freedom. We are celebrating a devout woman of faith and quiet strength. Mrs. Rosa Parks lived his words and taught not just me, but the world, how to harness the power of good. Mrs. Parks lived a life of prayer, music, and storytelling to uplift the soul. She believed that so much, to unite hearts across every divide. That belief is why we're here today, to celebrate, to heal, and to give thanks. Prayer has no borders, no labels, no requirements. That's why Mrs. Parks created and loved prayer breakfasts. She would dress up in a hat and white gloves, and many times while sitting next to her, I felt her leave her body while praying. Today, we celebrate her life's work. We commit ourselves to something bigger, a future rooted not in division, but in unity, purpose, reverence, and hope. It gives me great honor to introduce a man of faith who, like Mrs. Parks, has lived every breath of his life focused on mission and vision. He is a man of dignity, discipline, and unwavering service. We have two 51 augmented stops outside his museum. So a few weeks ago, I attended an unveiling of a wonderful sculpture of Lincoln signing the Emancipation Proclamation outside the Grimke School, where his new museum, the African American Civil War Museum, moved. His museum has not opened yet, but this unveiling was the best event launch I have ever seen. Mr. Smith is holding his grand reopening at his museum on November 10th and 11th. I can't wait to go back to celebrate with him. The Honorable Frank Smith.
Well, thank you very much, H, for inviting me back. I've been here many times, so she's holding the room for me for when I get to where I can't walk around anymore. They're going to take care of me over here. And every day, my steps get shorter and shorter. But I'm happy to be here with you, and certainly happy to be sitting next to a real legend whose works and whose spirit I know about, because I was born in Noonan, Georgia. I told her this already. And for those of you who don't know this, Noonan is a suburb of Atlanta. Well, that's right. We had running water and flushing toilets in Noonan. They were still living in tents and cages in Atlanta. If you believe that, I got a piece of Brooklyn Bridge I got to sail before I leave here. But Noonan is also halfway between Montgomery, Alabama, and Atlanta. When I was coming up, it was on Highway 29. Now it's 85. And I was born on a peach orchard, a peach plantation. When I left from Morehouse College, I had no running water and outdoor toilet. First time I ever slept in the bed by myself was when I got to Morehouse College. And that little bunk bed felt pretty good to me. But I'm talking about that because I went to college in 1959, so it's 56 when this movement starts in Montgomery. I'm still in the 8th or 9th grade. And I know this well because I was at middle school when a girl named Jessie Smith brought Jet magazine to school one day that one that had the mutilated body of Emmett Till in it. And we didn't get Jet magazine in my house. We couldn't afford it. But in those days, people got things like Jet magazine, they passed it around. And so Jessie was passing it around at school. And, but she was crying, and she was pretty, probably the prettiest girl in my school. I was about 12 or 14 years old, but I knew a pretty girl when I saw one. And so when she started crying, I had to check on that to make sure. And she was crying because she saw that mutilated body. Now that happened in August. And then in September, we get the sit-in movement. We call it the sit-in movement. Now, it wasn't called that at that time. Rosa Parks starts a revolution in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, I'm sure that some of that Emmett Till story by then was built up in her, too. Somebody had to do something about this. Black people couldn't go on living like this, and white people couldn't go on living like this either, by the way, thinking that they were so much better than everybody else, that they could kill and mutilate, kick people around like Mrs. Park and others, and think they had a free country, a democracy here in the United States. So somebody had to do something about that, and by 1959, I was registered at Morehouse College. By 1960, I was in the sit-in movement in Atlanta, and marching and picketing and going to jail. And those of you from Washington know that I dropped out. I left Morehouse in 1963. I had become chairman of the Atlanta student movement before I left. From a peach plantation in Newnan, Georgia, to chairman of the Atlanta sit-in movement 3 years later in Atlanta. Something was happening, you all, around here, around the world, and it was all started by Rosa Parks in Montgomery. And I'm here today with Mrs. Gunter, who was on that same bus that she was on. That's amazing, isn't it? That's amazing. That's amazing. I run a museum here that about a civil war that happened 150 years ago. That seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? But it was in our lifetime. It was in your lifetime. So this history keeps repeating itself, and we've got to figure out how to make it stop. So I'm happy to talk about Rosa Parks today, and I chose to talk about her like this because we all have to find our purpose in life. Somebody said life was a search for the topic sentence. What is the topic sentence? What are we going to do today? And what are we going to leave behind that somebody else might, some wayward person might find as an inspiration that would get them going? And so I came this morning because I wanted to say thank you to Rosa Parks on her birthday today. And happy birthday, Rosa Parks. And I wanted also to meet this lady right here, to sit next to her and get a photograph with her before she leaves. That's right, I believe in photographs. So does HH too. But it's a phenomenal story about something that happened here in the United States. And when I think about what happened in Montgomery and all of the things, that possibilities that almost didn't happen, like, you know, Mrs. Parks was not the first person that's sitting on that bus to get thrown off the bus. And Martin Luther King was not the famous leader that we know of now. Some people said Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks made Martin Luther King a leader. And we all know what he did afterwards. And so that phenomenon that took place there, two or three people, one of whom is here with us today, who interacted with each other at that time, and still here, still telling that story. She's still here telling that story. And Rosa Parks was here in this building telling that story herself for many, many years. I saw her here on a couple of occasions. And we have Cora Masters Barry, we have an iconic photograph that's in our exhibit at the African American Civil War Museum of Rosa Parks, Marion Barry, and a couple other people that was taken at Howard University. That's going to be part of our exhibit at the African American Civil War Museum, which will open its doors on November 10th and 11th in a few weeks from now. We're sweating out the details, but that's what we do. If these jobs were easy, anybody could do them. That's right. So it took somebody special, like it took somebody special in Montgomery for Rosa Parks to stand up. She sat down and made us all stand up. And she gave us the courage. And that changed the United States of America. It changed America. It changed America. When I left home to go to college in Atlanta, I took the back of the Greyhound bus. That's right. By the time we finished with the civil rights movement, you could sit anywhere you wanted to on the bus. You could stay at hotels where you couldn't even, you could work there, but you had to come in through the back door to go to work. You couldn't even come in the front door to go to work. We changed America, and we made it a better place. And we may be at a point now where some crazy stuff is going on, but Dr. King said that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. We have put in too much work. We have shed too much blood. We have walked too many miles. We have done too many boycotts to have this all get turned around by some 2 or 3 years of somebody who's out of control here in the United States. So we got something for them. We know how to handle that. And we'll survive this, and we'll keep that progress, steady beat of progress, going in America. What made America a good place, from a slaveocracy to a democracy, was the action of African Americans here in the United States. This country was not a land of liberty and freedom and all those things that people now see and think of when they come to America. It was not that before the African American community, starting with these actions of these soldiers in the Civil War and then the Civil Rights Movement, and leading people like Mrs. Rosa Parks, who took the first step, put their life on the line, and because they stood up, gave us all courage to continue this fight. So thank you, Rosa Parks. Happy birthday.
Now I'd like to introduce my good friend, Mrs. Jane Gunter, who was on the bus that fateful day, December 1st, 1955. And I want to introduce you to her daughter, Jan, who was also on the bus in her tummy.
I'm just getting over a stroke. I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for being here today. You were beautiful. I think we can have a church service, right? I'm Jane Gunter, inner city kid from Atlanta. My dad made $60 a week, and we lived. We had a great time. Life was good. And then I married my childhood. I said I'm going to say something I don't think I've ever said. I married my childhood sweetheart. And we were getting ready to, I was getting ready to go to Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery because that's where he was stationed. And his dad was driving me. We get down the highway and I see this stuff on the side of the road and I said, "Papa, what is that?" And he said, "Girl, don't you know anything?" And I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "It's cotton." And I said, "You know cotton comes in an aspirin bottle." That's the difference in city kids and country kids. But anyway, I get to Maxwell Air Force Base. I settle in, and a long time later, I went to the base hospital and saw a very mean old Army nurse. And she said, "Do a lot of walking. You're not getting anything for pain. You're going to have a baby." So I did a lot of walking. I always had a coin in my shoe if I needed to ride the bus, but I really couldn't afford to spend that coin. And I didn't. All those months that I walked, I kept that coin in my shoe, but one day I was tired. And I got on this bus. I sat right behind the driver, was holding onto the pole. I think you might see it, this AI stuff. They've got me on that bus. But anyway, I was just sitting there and I was in my world, and somebody said, "Were you planning what you were having for dinner or what?" I said, "I have no idea what I was thinking of." And all of a sudden I hear this commotion. And I had noticed that they came in the front door, put their coin in the slot, and then got out of the bus and walked to the back door. Well, that looked strange, but I was from Atlanta. Things were a little bit different in Atlanta. They were really different in Montgomery. So I saw that for a minute, and then I got back in my own emotional world and whatever I was thinking about. And all of a sudden, I saw this big driver get up out of his seat. He turns around and he says, "You better let me have that seat." And he shouted, and I kind of woke up, and something else was said, and I said, "Oh, she can have my seat." And when I did that, this tall, fair-skinned man said, "Don't you dare move." And he put his knees into mine, and I sat down. I just want you to know, in those days, white women and black women were treated the same. Men control the world, and I saw something today with a sign on a lady's head. It says, "Women are in charge of the world today," something to that effect. But it's different today. It was not that way in the 50s. So, the bus driver says, "Everybody get off the bus." They call the police, Mrs. Parks. I got off the bus. I went back to the base. I don't remember whether I rode a bus or whether I ran all the way home, but I got back to the base. And on Jan's 50th birthday, all of the family flew to Denver to celebrate her birthday. And I turned around to my husband and I said, "I need you to validate my memories." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Is it really true that I was on that bus? Did I really see all this?" And he said, "Why do you ask?" And I said, "Why did I not know about the bus boycott? There it was, right in front of me." He said, "No. The base locked down, and nobody knew anything that was going on." Some people probably did, but little people like us did not. So anyway, later we went home, or to another base. I don't know what we did. And in that, I just lived my life and had my family, and 30 or more years later, after church on Sunday, we came home. We didn't do TV or anything. We sat around in the living room and read magazines. And one of my sons opened this magazine, a Life magazine. He said, "Mom, this is the funniest looking bus." And I said, "Oh, son, I was on the bus." "I'm going to call her up," he says. Well, we did. We got Elaine Steele. Elaine planned for us to meet in Atlanta, and Mrs. Park was coming in to speak at the C.T. Vivian event. So Jan and I guess my husband, we talked about that. We met her at her hotel room. I had written a book on ministry, and she said, "I always wanted to be a missionary." So, and that's, I guess, written somewhere or spoken. We took a little brownie camera with a flash cube thing on the top of it, and we took a cassette player. Was that awesome? Is that awesome? The only reason we have pictures of that time was because we carried those things. Well, I was on the floor in front of her and my shoes off. Someone asked me later from a TV station in Atlanta, "Did you feel like you were on holy ground? Is that why you had your shoes off?" I said, "No, I usually always take my shoes off." My neighbor even brought me some house shoes so I'd wear shoes. But anyway, I don't. We met her in that suite. We sat together, and you'll see the picture, and we talked. And she said, "I always wanted to be a missionary." And I said, "Well, you could be, and you probably are. Your love is so spread." But she bought my book, and I bought hers, and the check that she gave me, I never cashed. It's over there in the frame. She was a delightful woman. And through our time together, I've traveled with the Rosa Parks group in Atlanta. I go wherever Birmingham, Montgomery, anywhere. I travel and I teach school children about the Rosa Parks story and tell them things they don't know. They think this, I'll tell them the correct way to remember her. She liked to stay up all night long and eat popcorn and talk. Elaine Steele, when she comes to Atlanta, stayed at my house. And other people in the movement would bring her to me from the airport. It got to be a family. But one day recently, after in April I was down for a minute, I just got this total peace about it's time to start purging things, giving things to people that like that. In fact, the man that allowed us to meet each other for me to give you all the things I gave you, I asked him, could we stay there? And I noticed on his desk that he liked paperweights. So of course I gave him a paperweight for allowing us to be there. It's been wonderful. It's been awesome. But when I decided it was time for me to give things away, I had already done my will, and I tell everybody, I'm a pastor, so I encouraged everybody to get their power of attorney settled, their medical papers settled, and I didn't feel like I was dying or anything. I just knew it was time. I'm 86 years old. So I started giving things away, and I was kind of fearful to tell Jan about it. And she was out of town burying 2 family members. So when you walked in the door, I said, Jan, I've really been feeling this way, and I know I've always told you that all of it is yours. And I said, I just feel strongly. 5 museums had asked me for all the things that I had. I said, I feel so strong that the place for it to be is with H and Ted at the museum in Washington. And Jan kind of stood back and you said, Mom, I feel the same way. So it didn't go to Atlanta, because when the girl that wrote one of the books on Mrs. Parks from the Library of Congress, she came to Atlanta to speak at the African American Museum. There were about 6 people there. Excuse me. We come here and there's, all night long there's people here. The people were roaming halls and people come here all the time, and this was the place, and I fell in love with you. I'll tell you also I fell in love with Ted. Anyway, it's been awesome. It has been awesome. I don't know my timing, but I guess that's good enough. Nice to have you all here.
Thank you, Mrs. Gunter. The power of hope, which is how you harness the power of good, speaks to the best of us. It's a belief that love is all that matters. Love conquers fear. You exemplify this, and your donations today will be seen by generations to come. So before I start my few stories about Mrs. Parks, I want everybody to thank Mrs. Berry, who's right sitting next to Mrs. Ali, because she's responsible for the grits that we have today. I was sound asleep, the grits.
Oh, the grit.
I was sound asleep at 10:30 at night. I normally get 2 to 3 hours of sleep, and I get a text from the chairman of our board. I don't know where Paul is. My eyes are terrible. Paul Cohen. And says, Mrs. Berry is very upset because you're not having a black breakfast today. So he called the chef. And if you look at the grits, it says, this is Mrs. Berry's, so thank her.
We thank you too.
Mrs. Parks' nature was always the same, kind, consistent, and true. She spoke the truth, even when it was difficult to say, but she did it in a way you could hear her message. It would sink into you so deeply you did not even know what was happening. That's real power, quiet power. Like her hands. We used to hold hands all the time. We didn't need to talk. She used to, you spoke about Emmett Till. Her mother was here a lot. Mrs. Parks said if it wasn't for Emmett's, she prayed to God that she wouldn't move. And then if it wasn't for seeing pictures of Emmett that had just been in the newspaper, she would not have had the strength. So she started corresponding with Mrs. Till, and she was here frequently, and the two of them were staying in your room, not Mrs. Parks, but Mrs. Till. They would go out in the balcony and hold hands together, have tea and cookies, and they wouldn't talk because they didn't need to talk. Have you ever held hands with someone you just knew what they were feeling? With Mrs. Parks, the truth, the strength, the peace, the pain, all came through her hands. In 1994, when she was 81, Mrs. Parks came to live with me. The last 10 years of her life, those years we spent together, were the most dynamic. She was my teacher, my second mother. She called me Lady H. I called her Mother Parks. And the only frustration she ever showed was when people didn't know her beyond the bus. So today, to honor her, I want to tell you a few things that you might not know. Did you know that 25 years before the bus, in the 1930s, Mrs. Parks traveled across the South to document stories of Black rape victims, both men and women? That wasn't safe. That wasn't easy, but she did it anyway. Did you know 11 years before the bus, she investigated the rape of Reese Taylor, a wife, a sharecropper in Alabama? She didn't just document it, she organized. She co-founded the Committee for Equal Justice, which became a national movement. In the 1950s, she brought people of all races and religions into the NAACP. In the 1960s, she protested against the Vietnamese War with Muhammad Ali and Harry Belafonte. She called Malcolm X her personal hero. She supported the Black Panther Party. And right after Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, she helped form the National Organization of Women. Still, she never raised her voice. She just kept doing the work. She was always ahead of her time, teaching inner city kids organic gardening in the 1970s, starting recycling programs then. I didn't even know about recycling until she came and moved in with me. Taking children to baseball games to give them hope. That was Mrs. Rosa Parks. We shared afternoon teas and Sunday church rides in my only vehicle at the time, which was a yellow school bus. Imagine taking Mrs. Parks to the White House in that yellow school bus. She also started and hosted our gospel brunches the first Sunday of every month. Just this month, Mrs. Ali was our special guest in continuing that tradition. And Mrs. Ali and Mrs. Parks were soul sisters. When I hold Mrs. Ali's hands, I feel like I'm holding Mrs. Parks. So every time I see her, I want to hold her hands more. One lesson Mrs. Parks repeated over and over again: we're hiding behind the laws. If we don't change people's hearts, the laws will roll back. Everything I do now, from O Museum to writing books to 51 Steps to Freedom, is about changing people's hearts one heart at a time. She showed me through her words, not through her words, but through her life, that real power comes from quiet, daily actions, from how you treat people, from how you live your life. From childhood on, she lived so honorably that no one could use her past against her. Even when she was assaulted physically and emotionally again and again, she never let it break her spirit. She used the pain she received to help others. The work she did in the 1930s documenting abuse of others helped her survive her own experiences. Giving others a voice gave her a reason to live. One day she told me, I can't change what's inside someone. That's something they have to do themselves. So she forgave everyone everything, And she also said it was important to forgive herself every morning she woke up. And this is how she dealt with life. Pain became a motivation, not a weapon. She rarely got angry. She never tried to get even. She never let us forget what we were fighting for was never about ourselves. It was always about serving others. She'd say, people think of me and think of civil rights, women's rights, human rights, but what I was really fighting for was love. When the bus driver passed, the press called Mrs. Parks and asked her if she had a comment, and she never answered any question quickly. She thought for several minutes, and then she said, I'm sure his family will miss him. That is grace. Love, forgiveness, compassion, determination, that's what Mrs. Parks lived every day. She taught people to say yes, to live with purpose, to get an education no matter what your age was. Did you know that she learned to swim at the age of 87? And the photograph of her that Mrs. Gunter gave us, and also the dress that Mrs. Parks gave to Mrs. Gunter that she donated, she was learning how to use computers in that photograph. She was 84. We had both just traveled to meet Pope John Paul II in St. Louis, and I was using a little baby Sony laptop on the airplane to craft the speech that she was going to talk to the Pope about. She fell in love with computers from that moment on. There are many lessons I learned from Mrs. Parks, but the underlying foundation of what she taught is about having faith in yourself to do the hard work to change the hearts and minds of those you meet, not just through your words, but again by your exemplary actions. Even holding hands is important, because when you touch somebody, they can't fear you anymore. And when we traveled together, even in the airports, we would go through the machines, she would shake everyone's hands. She would shake everyone as she went down on the airplane, because her philosophy was, if they can touch me, they no longer fear me. The power of hope speaks to the best of us. It's a belief that love is all that matters, and love conquers fear. So I will leave you with some of the 7 lessons she taught me. She taught me a lot more. They're, amazing things. But what I live by, which is what she lived by. Say yes, always. That's how doors open. Forgive everyone at night. Make sure you forgive yourself in the morning. Let go of ego. Ego means edging God out. Live simply. Speak with grace. Education looks different for everyone, so keep learning. Stay true to your mission. And again, love is all that matters. Thank you for letting me share a few stories about the woman I called Mother Parks. May we all carry her forward, her message, not just her words, but in the way we live. You can be quiet, but in your quest, you must believe you can move mountains.